Fear Street, Part 1, 1994, out on Netflix. It's the first part of a new trilogy of horror films, which is an interesting experiment because they're all done already. They're all shot and finished, and will be released on a weekly basis. Next weekend is Part 2, 1978, and then a week after that, Part 3, 1666. From the onset, it was not immediately obvious whether this would be an anthology of movies or they would be a straight series. The dates progressing further back into the past would suggest the former, but actually, after seeing the first one, I'm not so convinced anymore. I suspect that the two remaining ones will retain a stronger connection to the first movie. Anyway, the story opens with a girl closing down late at night at a bookstore in a shopping mall when she starts getting chased by a murderer with a skull mask on. She gets killed eventually, but so does the killer, shot by a local sheriff. Now, in the opening montage which follows, we learn that this took place in a town called Shadyside, which for centuries now has been notorious for crime, murder, various instances of people going crazy or becoming serial killers. Right next to it is a rival town called Sunnyvale. As you may guess, it's the polar opposite. Calm, peaceful, people live good and happy lives. Anyway, because of the rivalry between the two towns, teenagers from both of them, or rather from each, are often at odds with one another. And one night, one such escapade leads to a car crash in the woods. One of the teenagers, one of the girls, has a strange vision involving a legendary witch that was supposedly the reason for all this crazy mambo jumbo in Shadyside. And soon after, she and her friends begin to get chased by various sinister characters, including, it would seem, the Skull Mask Killer, who we saw be killed earlier on. Now, this may sound like a pretty straightforward slasher film, and it kind of is. It's very formulaic, it doesn't invent anything new. In fact, a lot of the things that it does are basically copied from other movies. Scream, Halloween, Friday the 13th come to mind as the most obvious ones. But it feels like a very sanitized, like teenage, kid-friendly version of those films. For a very long time, the movie avoids actually killing anybody, which quickly leads to, I mean, at least anybody from the main characters, which quickly leads to an emotional investment going way down. I mean, I can clearly see these characters are not actually in any danger, so why would I be nervous or excited? Instead, I was pretty bored. I thought that all of the characters are pretty shallow, there's nothing new or special about their dynamics. I mean, yeah, the two lead girls are lesbians, so maybe you can consider that as a new thing, but to me, it wasn't enough. The set pieces are boring, the story is weak, the dialogue poorly written, the jokes are unfunny. In the entire film, which by the way is also like a good half an hour too long, there's about 3 minutes of good stuff, and there's finally some killing in the last part. But apart from that, there's really not much to go on. It's a painfully generic, sanitized slasher film, which more than anything else serves to set the stage for the sequel, because things actually start getting interesting at the end, and there's actually like a short teaser playing for the next film at the end of this one. So maybe things will get better this next weekend, we'll see, but the first part is not promising at all. It's a pretty weak movie in every respect.